I deal with way too many crazies, real bottom-of-the-barrel types, you know? So let's take on someone reasonable for once. How about Stand to Reason videos? That sounds reasonable. This is a video by Koukl about how to argue against one of the toughest questions from non-Christians. So let's learn about some reasonable, 100% honest debate tactics. That'll be a nice change.
In your conversations with other people about Christ and Christianity and the real important things,
I'm not sure I'd call those real important. As a matter of fact, I'd place them slightly behind dried fruit in terms of importance. But whatever. Hi there, Greg. I'm Logicked, and I'm here to nod along with my zany bobblehead as you say reasonable things.
you are going to encounter what I call the question. That is the question that stops most Christians in their tracks, and they don't really quite know how to deal with it.
True, but don't worry, Greg. I'm not going to ask you about your dick. There's really no need. You framed your shot to put it front and center. It's pretty obvious that, I'm sorry.
And the question was posed to me in a hour-long TV debate that I had with Deepak Chopra, the New Age guru, as we talked about spiritual things. And what he said to me is, so you're saying that anyone who doesn't believe just like you is going to hell?
Wait, this video's not going to be about hell, is it? Because I've talked about that a lot lately, so hopefully not. I'm kind of trying to change the subject up a little bit here. I'd really rather talk about debate tactics. But, so Chopra brought up the hell thing, though, eh? Good on him. Probably about the only thing I agree with him on. But I'm sure you had some prepackaged comeback for that, which you felt totally resolved all the issues and actually probably didn't even address them, right? We'll find out as this video goes on, but it's interesting that you say a lot of Christians are stopped in their tracks by this question. I mean, this is a question that should have occurred to all thinking people who accept this belief system before anyone ever brought it up to them. So if Christians have put even the slightest amount of thought into what they believe, they should have already answered this question to themselves, and so they should have no trouble responding to it from anyone else. But then again, I do tend to give Christians a little bit too much credit and start with the assumption that they're sensible people, and thus have actually taken a couple minutes out of their entire fucking life to consider the details of the ideology that they've dedicated the entirety of their being to. My wife always scolds me for doing that because it's just not realistic. I guess I'm just naturally an optimist. But according to you, Greg, a lot of Christians haven't even bothered with any of that, which is frankly hilarious and incredibly depressing.
That's the way you put the question. Now, some people have said if you're careful how you push the question, you could win any argument.
No, you can't. What if the argument's about whether leprechauns exist? The answer to that question has nothing to do with whether believing in Jesus is the only way to get to heaven. But I think from what you say next that what you're really trying to say is that it's a piece of rhetoric which, if employed in a debate, can emotionally manipulate the audience in such a way that they take an unfavorable view of you, which if that's your idea of winning an argument, well, that's pretty sad, to be honest. I always thought winning an argument was about who had the arguments that are hardest to poke holes in, maybe based on evidence. But hey, quality argumentation is overrated. People come to see the show.
And the problem here is that this was a question about the exclusivity of Christ, a critical issue in Christianity, but it was put in a way that made me look really, really bad.
Was it? Really? I mean, based on how you presented it, it sounded pretty neutral, So everyone who doesn't believe like you is going to hell? There are only two real options with that. Either you don't think it's true, in which case you would just say, no, I don't think that at all. And then you wouldn't look bad at all. Or you do think it's true, in which case it doesn't just make you look bad, but assuming you're okay with it, it also makes you a really shitty person no matter how it's put. And that's going to come across. Maybe if you don't want to look like a bad person, you should stop approving of things that make you a bad person. I mean, what you're really complaining about here is not that Deepak Chopra misrepresented your beliefs. You're complaining that he represented them accurately and bluntly, without your preferred obfuscation. Well, poor little you. I wish people would do that more often.
So if I would have answered the question, yes, unless you believe that Jesus is the Messiah, then you will die in your sins, you will go to hell, I would have answered correctly, but I would have really given the wrong impression.
Uh-huh. See? You don't want your prize pig trotted out in front of an audience without lipstick. This is amazing. Yeah, okay, I know our religion is so bad that if we explain it in simple, accurate terms, it makes it sound absolutely horrifying and no compassionate person could possibly like it. So obviously we're not going to discuss it accurately. Then people would get the impression that we believe what we believe. And that's really the wrong impression. Okay, Greg, take that truth and set it spinning. Let's see how fast you can get it going.
I would have fulfilled a really negative stereotype that people have of Christians.
A negative stereotype? Okay, sure, not all Christians believe that, but you just said you do. So regardless of whether the really negative stereotype is true about all Christians, it is true about you. What he said on TV was correct, you just said so. Maybe if you don't want to reinforce really negative Christian stereotypes, stop being one.
And I would have played right into Deepak Chopra's rhetorical hand, and I did not want to do that.
When Deepak fucking Chopra is more willing to state the plain truth than you are, you might want to put some careful thought into what you're doing with your life. The weird thing is that you were worried about playing into Deepak's rhetorical hand, but for some reason, now that you're on YouTube, you're perfectly happy to say that you really do actually believe exactly what he accused you of believing, and that all you did was dodge the question. It's actually sort of incredible how open you are about your cowardice and dishonesty. I haven't seen that before. So, thanks.
And so in that particular circumstance, I sidestepped the issue and I went in a different direction.
The honest answer was yes, but that would have made me sound like a terrible person. So instead I dodged the question and changed the subject as quickly as I could. Damn, dude, I don't think I've ever heard a religious person come right out and just tell me they deliberately derail conversations to avoid telling the truth. They obviously do it all the time. I mean, I notice it all the time, but they don't usually make videos openly declaring that they do it.
But we can't always sidestep that issue, and nor should we.
So, do as you say, not as you do? Why shouldn't everyone use your technique, Greg? It works perfectly well for terrified octopuses. Why shouldn't it work for terrified Christians too? Squirt some ink and run like hell.
We need to address it because it's really, really important. But how do we do that?
Oh, I see. It's really important to address it unless it's on TV where the unbelievers might see you. Then you should just distract them with as many irrelevancies as possible. Yeah. Or had you seriously never even considered how to answer that question before you heard it on TV from Chopra?
And this is where the tactical approach, I think, is really golden.
The tactical approach. I see. What exactly do you mean by tactical? Well, you're supposedly in the right here, so tactical should mean plain speaking, truthful, and clear. That's all that's necessary when you're honest. But I'm not getting my hopes up.
Especially using the Columbo tactic in its third sense, and that is using questions to make a point.
The Columbo tactic? What's that? Oh, look at this. The article summarizing the Columbo tactic is on the Stand to Reason website, written by you. Okay, I guess you coined this term, and it means mildly asking questions to expose flaws in someone else's point of view. So the Socratic method for babies. I gotta be honest with you though, man. It seems more like Chopra was successfully using this method on you. The fact that you were scared to answer yes or no because yes is true and sounds bad, and so you changed the subject instead, was perfectly sufficient to expose the flaws that even you see in your point of view. Columbo's already caught you, man. Asking questions from your jail cell isn't gonna convince anyone to lock the detective up with you.
Using questions allows us to make the point in a much more powerful way, especially when we get stuck in a circumstance like this.
A circumstance like this? What circumstance? The circumstance where someone asks you a simple yes or no question, the answer to which, unless your religion is nothing more than a cruel, bloody-minded anti-human cult, is the simplest thing in the world to answer? You know, just one syllable, an unequivocal no? That circumstance? If the reality of your religion wasn't exactly as bad as it looks when you just answer yes, you wouldn't feel trapped when someone asks you about it. You wouldn't have trouble answering this question. As a matter of fact, you'd be glad to have this question asked of you so that you had the opportunity to disillusion those people of their really negative stereotype of Christians. But you can't, because the stereotype is true, at least of you. So instead, you need to rely on tactics designed to avoid exposing your point of view. And yeah, that is a reason you explicitly give to use this tactic. Here it is, coming out of your own mouth.
The Columbo tactic. Questions can make headway without even having you expose your point of view. These questions, using the Columbo tactic, keeps you in the driver's seat.
Wow, dude, that doesn't look good for you.
Someone came up to me and asked the question, why do I need to believe in Jesus? He said, I'm Jewish, I believe in God, I try to live the best life that I can. Why do I need Jesus? So there's the question again, not as belligerently put as with Deepak Chopra, but the question.
No, that's not the same question at all. Chopra's question was about whether you believe that everyone who doesn't believe what you believe will go to hell. This question has nothing at all to do with hell. As a matter of fact, it sounds like just an honest inquiry about why a person would need Jesus. You know, you're saying I need this thing, tell me why I need it. You're saying I need new tires, tell me why I need new tires. It doesn't assume that you're going to get tortured if you don't get new tires. It doesn't imply at all that this guy thinks the answer is because if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to go to hell. But it is interesting that you thought it was the same question. It's telling. It sounds like the same question to you because you know the answer. answer. You know that the only answer you have is because if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. So in both situations, you need to come up with some way to avoid saying what it is that you actually think. And then you'll come on here where you think you're in a safe space, on your Christian channel for Christians, and then you're perfectly open about it.
Now, here's a case where I want to lead up to the point. I want to make the point by making a couple of steps.
Man, if I were a Christian, it'd be so damn simple. I mean, regardless of what roundabout way you use to eventually sorta kinda reach the point where you're just threatening people into submission, you're still gonna end up doing it. So why go through the pointless extra effort? Just save yourself that effort and tell them, you need Jesus because if you don't accept him, you're going to hell and you deserve it, bitch. Take the offer or leave it. And then walk away. If God wants them to accept Jesus, they're gonna do it, so take it easy, man. Life is so much better when you speak honestly. Try it sometime.
I have a choice at this point. I could go ahead and state my steps as part of my argument, put my pieces on the table, so to speak, and then come to a conclusion.
State your steps. Okay, step 1, my religion says you better accept Jesus or he's going to toss you into the hellfire. Step 2, therefore the reason you need Jesus is to not get thrown in the hellfire. Seems fine, accurate. It precisely represents your disgusting religion and it presents them with a clear choice, so what's the problem?
Which leaves me with a certain liability. Every time I make a claim that is a stepping stone to my conclusion, the other person, especially if they're a little bit belligerent, can just deny the claim.
How? The only claim you're making is, I believe that if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. Pretty simple, unless you actually want to claim your beliefs are true and provide evidence and arguments to show they're true, which I severely doubt is a priority for you, but regardless, it's got nothing to do with why you believe people need Jesus. That's a totally separate conversation. And when all you're talking about is whether or not you believe something, people can't very well deny that. I mean, they can't read your mind, so unless you're doing something that really seems to conflict with your claim that you believe it, they're probably just going to take you at your word, right? So again, what's the problem here?
And now I get nowhere.
You got to the point of not lying about your beliefs or running away from them. Seems like somewhere to me.
So instead, I am going to use questions to get those pieces placed on the table by the other person.
Hey, random non-Christian, do I believe that if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell? Yes? Aha! Checkmate, atheist!
Because if they put those pieces on the table, it's a lot harder for them to take them off, to deny them, okay?
Oh, it's okay. I'm quite happy to have no way to retract and deny the truth. I'll leave that to you, okay?
Let me show you how that works with the question, all right?
Speaking of the question, I really appreciate you telling me which questions you've noticed put the most fear into Christians. I already pretty heavily rely on the hell thing because if you push a Christian or a Muslim really hard on that, a decent percentage of the time they're going to break down and start begging for forgiveness for being such terrible people. I'm not kidding, I've managed that tons of times in comment threads. You just have to keep up a really harsh offensive. It seems to work considerably better with Muslims than it does with Christians, oddly enough, but I'm glad to hear that even you notice just how effective it is against Christians. I'll make sure to use it even more liberally from now on, and maybe some members of my audience will try their hand at it now too.
Here was the first question I asked. Do you think that people who commit moral crimes ought to be punished?
Moral crimes? What the fuck is a moral crime? Can you rephrase that for me, please?
In other words, do people who do bad things, should they pay for them?
Oh, then no, of course not. Don't be stupid. Look, if you'd asked, should someone who committed murder be punished, I would have said yes, with the reason being that we as a society need to protect other people from being murdered and to deter future would-be murderers. What punishment that is can be negotiated, but a long term in jail seems sufficient, and preferably there would be a serious attempt at rehabilitation while they're in there, so that when they get out, the chance that they'll do it again is diminished. But barring exceptional cases, they probably should eventually get out. But just saying that bad things should be punished is way too broad. What constitutes a bad thing? Is murder a bad thing? What if someone murdered Hitler in 1944? Are accidental bad things bad things? Just a little while ago, my wife accidentally flipped a furry blanket onto some cheese I was eating. I consider that a bad thing. I wanted to eat that cheese, and now I have to fucking pick fur off of it. But she didn't mean to do it. Do I still need to punish her? And what's worse is, whose version of bad are we going with? The Bible? I mean, some people read the Bible and then they think gay sex is bad and we should stone gay people to death. Other people read the Bible and think it doesn't say gay sex is bad, and they think it means stoning people is bad. So should we stone gay people or shouldn't we? Some people read the Bible and think slavery is just fine, and some people read the Bible and think it's not. Some people consider apostasy bad. Should we start beheading apostates? Or is beheading bad? I think it's pretty bad. Should we behead the beheaders and then behead ourselves for beheading? That'll work out great. Or what if some guy like cheats on his girlfriend? Should he be punished? I'd say probably not, but morally a lot of people do consider that wrong. But even so, most people are going to acknowledge that it's the couple's private business to resolve. It's not the public's business to go and punish the guy. And punishment probably isn't even a thing that's warranted. Maybe she'll break up with him. Okay, well, that's not a punishment. That's just she doesn't want to be with a cheater. What if it's his wife instead of his girlfriend? Now it's adultery in marriage. Do we stone him to death? Throw him in jail? Let the couple sort it out? Let the wife whip him? What? Or how about lying? That's bad, right? And sometimes it is punished, like when there's something serious at stake in a trial or whatever. But what if I tell my friend that I really like their stupid Christmas present? Should I be punished for that? What if I'm having a really bad day and I yell at my wife when I really shouldn't be taking it out on her and then I apologize? It was a bad thing that I did, but do I deserve punishment? Do I deserve time in jail? Hell, what if when you're a toddler you whined to your parents one time for a toy you wanted, or you pestered the cat or something? Those are bad things. Do they require punishment? You see my problem, Greg? The concept is idiotic. No, I will not simply agree that people must pay for all the bad things they do. And for those certain bad things, which I do agree warrant punishment, that punishment has to be done with the goal of preventing more bad things from happening in the future. That's the point. And it has to be of a reasonable degree. If someone steals a chocolate bar, you don't chop their head off. But the ideas of preventing reoffense and reasonable punishment are not the case with... Well, we're going to get to that, aren't we?
And he said, well, since I'm a prosecuting attorney, yeah.
Huh, shitty attorney then. I mean, I thought attorneys were all about accuracy in language, but he couldn't even detect the idiocy of what you just said. Apparently, he heard the word crimes, ignored the rest of the word, and thought, nope, people shouldn't get away with crimes, derp-de-derp. Fucking dumbass.
I got lucky on the attorney part, you know.
No, you got lucky on the shit attorney part. If he'd been a halfway decent one, he would have ripped you to shreds. Ironically, probably with questions, just like you're doing. Lawyers tend to get trained in the Socratic method, you know, especially on the receiving end. You should be used to this kind of thing.
But most people have this sense, this deep intuition, that people who do wrong things should not get away with them, okay?
Do they? What kind of people are you hanging out with, Greg? Jesus Christ, man, we're not elementary school kids. Billy called me a mean name at recess. Okay, Billy, put out your hand. You're getting the strap. Kids don't get away with doing wrong things in my school. Fucking infantile. We're too old to be sent to our room for not eating our broccoli, Greg. How about let's build a legal system based on the protection of individuals in the society and structure our system of incentives, disincentives, and punishments to achieve that goal as efficiently as possible. Might work just a little bit better than everyone who ever does anything wrong needs to be punished, not because that'll help anything, but you know, just because punishment is inherently good. Yeah, that's gonna work out awesome. That's not a terrifying totalitarian state in any way whatsoever.
And so I agreed with him. I agree that people who do wrong things ought to be punished. So now we've got a piece on the table. He put it there because I asked him the question.
Yeah, maybe try arguing with a better lawyer next time. Or better yet, make a video response to me. That'd be funny.
Second question. Have you ever done any wrong things? That's personal, right?
I guess so, but nothing so personal that I'm not willing to answer it. I believe what you're really asking here is, have you ever done any wrong things that warranted punishment? Because punishment is the hinge upon which your whole argument turns here, right? In which case, no. I've never stolen, I've never killed anyone, never assaulted anyone, never raped anyone, never created a human in a vat and tortured them when they disobeyed. I've never done anything at all that I would want anyone punished for. I practice what I preach. But I guess I have to come up with something to make my point, eh? So, okay, I did get a speeding ticket once for driving too fast on an empty highway. Only ticket I ever got in my entire life. I didn't figure that warranted a punishment, and the police really should have had better things to do than speed trap empty roads in the early morning. I mean, it was on a stretch that didn't even have any side roads. But let's pretend I do think people should be punished for that. I did it, I paid my fine, and I left it all in the past where it belongs. But what, Greg? I've done wrong things, and therefore 50 years from now I deserve to be set on fire for it forever? The punishment I got wasn't sufficient? One speeding ticket means I deserve to be damned to hell for eternity? Really?
What do you think he said? He said, yeah, I guess I have.
He's done wrong things that he actually thinks he should be punished for? Really? Why? I mean, the purpose of punishment is to prevent reoffense and to make an example of him. So does he think he's going to reoffend if someone doesn't punish him? Is it like some really bad crime that we have to really prevent people from wanting to do? Make sure people know they can't get away with? I mean, what, does this prosecuting attorney have some weird compulsion to commit crimes and he can't trust himself not to do it again? What is he, like a compulsive serial killer or something? Or are we talking about wrong things more like he forgot to clean his mistress's strap-on and so he tells her he deserves to be kicked in the nuts as punishment? Because other than those two situations, I can't think of any reason why the hell anyone would think this about themselves. Talk about a guilt complex, Jesus Christ.
If he would Said he didn't do any bad things. I want to talk to his wife, you know.
Why? Do you think he beats her? Do you think he's a child molester? Do you think his wife is the accessory to his serial killing? I mean, what? Apparently she knows of things he's done which seriously warrant punishment. That means she knows he's a hazard to society, or at least that he needs to be made an example of because his crime was so bad that it has to be discouraged publicly. So we're not talking about little things like getting into arguments with his wife or not taking out the garbage because, yeah, she might complain about those and they might have to have a relationship chat at some point if it annoys her enough, but they don't warrant any kind of punishment. They're meaningless. Or maybe she's his mistress. That explains a lot. You've been a naughty boy and now I must punish you. Ow! Ow! Ah! You talk to some weird people, Greg.
No, of course not. We all know we've done wrong things. I agreed with him, so have I.
Really? You have, eh? What have you done wrong that warrants punishment? Be honest now, because the fact you've done those things makes you a potential threat to everyone around you. What are you? A killer? A wife beater? A thief? What? And the fact that all of this is an argument for the justice of hell means that most likely you think you've not faced sufficient punishment for your vile deeds, which means that either you weren't caught or you were wrongfully acquitted. So how worried should we be here, Greg?
And then I said, now we got another piece on the table.
Yeah, and that puzzle's starting to look fucking bizarre. Are you sure you didn't mix up two puzzles by accident? If so, you do realize that's a wrong thing and I'm gonna need to punish you for it.
And so I said to him, look at where we come just in two questions. We both agree that people who do bad things ought to be punished, and we both agree that we've done those bad things.
Yes, and so either you're both admitting to getting away with serious crimes, in which case you're making me fucking nervous, or you're admitting that you have no clue about the purpose of punishments, or you're admitting that you think every stupid little thing you feel the least bit bad about deserves serious, infinite punishment. Oh no, my wife asked me if maybe I could weed the garden this weekend and I didn't do it. Oh man, I sure hope I get tortured forever and ever and ever. There's only two real options here, Greg. You're either stupid or you're crazy. Which is it?
You know what I call that? I said to him. What? He said. I said, bad news.
Well, yeah, nobody likes to learn that they're stupid or crazy.
This is not a good picture for us.
Okay, let me see if I understand this properly. Whatever little things this guy does that annoy his wife all deserve real, serious punishment. Which is utter bullshit, of course, and even his wife would tell you that. If you covered him in gasoline and set him on fire, his wife wouldn't just look on approvingly, she would scream and cry for help. But you're not talking about a mild punishment like that, or life in jail, or 1,000 lashes. No. You're talking about an eternity of having his skin seared off of him with fire and having it replaced while he screams and begs for mercy at the top of his lungs and his wife watches happy and smiling from heaven. You just keep on taking that punishment, Phineas. That's what you get for forgetting to feed the cat. What a lovely scenario. You know, Greg, you haven't even got me to agree that every bad thing deserves punishment. In fact, I think that's the most asinine thing I've ever heard. How in the hell are you planning to make the leap to every bad thing deserves infinite punishment? An infinite jump is an awful big jump. But that's not all, is it? If that were all, you wouldn't be saying this is bad news and it's not a good picture for us. Because even if you were such a despicable, misanthropic, psychopathic train wreck of a human being that you actually believed this was the optimal state of affairs, and you are, it wouldn't mean that's how things actually are. It would just mean you wish that's how things were. No, but it's so much worse because you believe that actually is how things are, and you approve of it so strongly. And by saying all of this, you're trying to get people to buy into the idea that it's good that this is how things are. I don't even know how you come to be filled with that much burning hatred for everyone around you. But you are. That's what you're doing, remember? You didn't just want to say, you have to believe what I believe or you'll go to hell. You wanted to talk your way around it to make it palatable. Somehow, this is your idea of making it palatable. But all you've done is make it so much worse. What an incredible failure of thought and empathy and compassion. You're at such a high level of incompetent evil that I can hardly believe what I'm witnessing here. You're an amazing specimen, Greg.
Now, do I need to tell this man he's a sinner? No. He just told me.
That's what sin is? His wife's minor annoyances with him seriously count as sin? Then I have to say this sin thing really doesn't sound like a big deal. At the absolute worst, what he would deserve for that is to maybe have a talk with his wife to figure out how they can resolve those issues. Most of the time, not even that. And yet, here you are calling him a sinner for it and saying that unless he believes what you believe, he deserves to have his skin fried off in a fire pit forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. For fuck's sake, just go join ISIS already, man. They can use sick fucks like you who jizz in their pants at the thought of someone getting tortured for insignificant bullshit.
Do I need to tell him that he's under judgment? No. He just told me.
No, he did not. Even if he told you, help me, I've killed and eaten 20 kids in the past month, I'm a sinner, I have to be punished. That doesn't mean he's under judgment for his actions. It doesn't mean there's a God. And if there is a God, it doesn't mean God's gonna judge him for it. It certainly doesn't mean God currently is judging him for it. I guess you're maybe judging him, but I don't think that's what you mean. The fact that you two idiots think it ought to be that way in no way implies that it actually is. Sorry, Greg, but you just leaped over a good few steps in your reasoning there. Slow down and take your time, man. There's no hurry. Walk us with you to your conclusion.
No, he wasn't thinking about that when he walked into the Barnes & Noble. But when I asked him a couple of simple questions that brought these moral intuitions, moral common sense really, to his awareness, he laid them right on the table. Now I've got something to work with.
Intuitions and common sense. So in other words, this is not something you've thought about in any way. Intuitions and common sense are gut feelings, not reasoned consideration. Maybe stop relying on your common sense and start using your brain instead, because your intuitions and your common sense make you sound like a goddamn monster. Can't I find a friendly religious person for once? What is going on lately? This is all I find to respond to lately.
And then I went from there and I explained, it's as if the judge is about to lower the gavel on the two of us in the dock, and we both know we're guilty, and we both know we deserve what we're going to get.
Hey man, what'd you do?
Oh, I missed my daughter's ball game.
Wow, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, I know. I hope they torture me real good. What did you do?
I bought a bottle of pop and the guy gave me a bit too much change, but I was already 2 hours away when I noticed, so I didn't return it.
Oh my god, you're the worst criminal I've ever heard of.
You're right, it's true. But at least I have some consolation. I know I'm gonna get the infinite fire bath that I've earned. Makes me feel much better.
And then the judge pauses and says, by the way, are either of you guys interested in a pardon at this point?
No, Your Honor. I've done wrong, and I know that I deserve what's coming to me.
I agree, Your Honor. If you pardoned us, it would just make others think they can get away with terrible crimes like ours. We can't have that in our society.
Yeah, what he said. Please let us serve our infinite sentences, Your Honor. In fact, can you double mine?
Oh yeah, please give me mine times 10.
Actually, can I have mine times 100?
I want mine times infinity.
Oh yeah, well give me mine times infinity times 2.
Damn!
Look, when you know you're guilty, you're much more open to an offer of forgiveness.
That makes no sense. If you're innocent and you know it, you're less likely to take a free pardon? What? Man, I would love a chance to poke around in that brain of yours. I mean, it seems like a fascinating place. It probably looks like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory in there, except the chocolate's made of fried corpses.
And that's exactly where I wanted to bring him.
You wanted to bring him to irrational terror and desperation for forgiveness for letting the grass get too long that one time?
And then I explained in very simple terms about substitutionary atonement, that the judge took off his robe and got in the dock and took the punishment for us so that we could be set free.
What are you on about? If the judge decided not to convict you, even if he's convinced you're guilty, fine, I guess. He can just not sentence you and be done with it. This isn't a fucking Monty Python sketch. He doesn't have to strip down to his gaunch and sentence himself for your crime. What would be the point of that? The whole point of a punishment is you take the punishment for your crime to deter you and others who see there's a punishment from committing more similar crimes. It's not just done for the sake of doing a punishment. It's not like, well, a crime happened, so someone has to be punished, doesn't matter who. What kind of an absolute farce of a court is this? Christ, if I were one of the defendants, I'd be like, am I on Punk'd right now? Candid camera? Where are the cameras?
Because that's what God has done in Jesus, and that's why Jesus is the only way. He's the only one who solved the problem.
If God didn't want to sentence you to eternal torture because you did a bad thing by not raking your leaves, he could have just, not done that? I mean, he's God. He probably should have the power to do that. Greg, the way you're presenting your God right now, he sounds like the biggest idiot in the universe, which I guess is appropriate.
Nobody else could do this. Only Jesus could. And that's why we have to put our confidence in him.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen. If this is the best Jesus can do, I have zero confidence in him. Less than zero, in fact. As a matter of fact, can we maybe vote in a different God? Because I think ours is broken.
And I don't know if that attorney trusted the Lord or not, but at least I was communicating the gospel to him, at least in a way that he could understand.
Okay, well, I understand what you've said, and I find it beyond absurd, and I find you to be not only a hilariously stupid individual, but a very nasty one who I really want nowhere near me, because you sound so irrational and hateful that you're probably a danger to everyone around you.
Because now it just wasn't a matter of believing in God and living the best way you could live. We both realize that's not enough.
Nothing you've said established that living the best way you can is not enough. You didn't even try to establish that God is actually going to punish you for every little thing you ever do wrong in your life, like pissing off your wife. You also didn't even try to establish that that punishment is infinite, and you didn't even try to establish that substitutionary atonement is necessary, or makes any sense, and in fact you failed worse at that than anyone I've ever heard. And I am not kidding, I've been dealing with you people for years, and that was the single worst attempt I've ever witnessed. That thing with the judge was the most preposterous nonsense I've ever heard a Christian say in defense of the concept of Jesus. So you really have failed completely to get anywhere near making your point.
If we're really guilty, then there's got to be a solution to the guilt problem.
The guilt problem? What, the problem that everything you ever feel a little bit guilty about requires infinite torture to set the universe straight? Yeah, that's not a problem. The only problem here is that you feel that way. It's not healthy. Get some counseling or something, because you're blowing things way out of proportion, man.
And that's what Christians offer in Christ.
Okay, well, your offer is ludicrous in the extreme, not to mention based solely on a hysterical overassessment of the importance of your flaws, and I reject it completely, as should everyone else. But, thanks for the offer.
God becoming a man to take the guilt upon himself so that we can be forgiven.
I just love how serious you sound when you say that. You clearly find it compelling, sensible, and emotionally fulfilling. Comedy gold! But I guess that's it. That was loads of fun, man, so maybe I'll see you again soon. But audience, if you'd like to see me again soon, subscribe and thumb up this video. And if you really like my videos, consider supporting me on Patreon. All of these people did, and I very much appreciate every single one of them, and all of my other patrons, as well as all of the people who support me through PayPal and who share my videos around and who interact with me on Twitter and everybody. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you soon.